Woody Zuill.
Woody Zuill. Okay. Yeah, we can have it over here perhaps. I need to have 4 or 5 volunteers, proficient Scrum Master types. Could you please come on up and help me? What I want you to do, and I really appreciate this, is I'm going to have you take Post-it notes. I need to get a Post-it note from every person here with 1 word on it. I'll explain what I need. So I need some Scrum Master types to help get the Post-it notes out and bring them back and collect them for me. This talk is about no estimates, and I'll explain some of what that is as we go. But what I want to do first is a little bit of an exercise where I'm going to gather some information from you. So everybody's going to need to have 1 Post-it note. So we need more Scrum Master types. There's 2 Scrum Masters in this whole place. Grab some Post-it notes and help pass them out really quickly. I need more volunteers. Where's the volunteers? There, come and help them get some Post-it notes passed it out. We need to do this really quickly. This isn't like normal life. This is like really important stuff. What's that? There should be enough for all these people, and if we run out, somebody can go get some more. Really quickly, come on now. Faster, faster. There's an incentive? The Scrum Masters get a book. Excellent. But it's written in, I don't understand, what does it say? Left? Okay. Alrighty, so while we're getting that, are we done? Has everybody got a Post-it note now? Do you have a writing instrument? A pen or a pencil or a... No, okay. So this is what I want you to do. Consider for 1 minute and write your answer down without talking. And I need all the Scrum Masters to be prepared to pick those notes up and bring them up, and you're going to come up and you're going to gather them for me. So the Scrum Masters have more work to do. It's harder, it gets harder and harder. I want you to write down in 1 word, what is the essence of an estimate? In 1 word. If you cannot speak or write in English, have someone translate for you. 1 word. What is an estimate? What is the essence of the word estimate? 1 word. Write it down. You got a minute. Go for it. It shouldn't take you even a minute to do it. Do it as quick as you can. And then once you get them, pass them to the center so that the Scrum Masters who are helping can pick them up real quick. If you have trouble thinking about what this word is, copy from your neighbor. What is an estimate? What is an estimate? What do we mean when we say estimate? If your boss comes to you and say, I need your estimate, what is it you're thinking? What is it you're going to do? We need the estimate. This thing says I have 31 minutes left. Is that correct? Excellent. So bring them on up. If you're a Scrum Master, so bring them on up. This is what I'm going to give the Scrum Masters instructions before you put them on there. This is what we're going to do. Anything that looks like this, put it up here. Anything that looks like that, you put it there. Anything that looks like that, you put it here. Anything that looks like that, you put it down there. Please, we're going to need your help to get them. Scrum Masters are going to need your help to move them around. Anything that looks like this, put up here. Anything that looks like that, you put over there. Anything that looks like that, anything that looks like that. I'll let you do those. And you can help. When somebody gets done, then you can help your neighbor. You didn't know I was going to put you to work here today, I guess, huh? Sorry about that. I'm going to circle those things just to make it clear. I just ruined their board. I was in Latvia not too long ago. They brought me a beautiful new erasable whiteboard. And I said, but I'll need some markers for it. So they went and got me markers for it. But I can't read Latvian. And they were not erasable markers. So I ruined their brand new board. Oh well, hopefully we won't do that here. Alrighty, so while they gather that, let me go on. I'm going to talk about no estimates. Thank you. Here's a whole bunch more. Do the best you can. You can pile them up. Keep them close. Like this goes here. You see that? Group them properly. All right? Very good. Get them close. You can double them up. So there's 83 parts to this talk, so we got to get moving. So first, an introduction. You know, I need to really have this where I can see my notes. I'm going to move this thing. How can I work without being able to see this? Sorry, people. Okay. No estimates is a placeholder for a much bigger conversation that we need to have. I'll explain a little bit where no estimates comes from and why I use that term. But basically, it's a placeholder for those things that we should be able to safely question in our environment, in our workplace, in our field. But it just seems like we can't do that. We should be able to question the status quo. Why do we do things the way we do things? How's that going? You guys okay? Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, so that's all it is. When I first started talking about no estimates, somewhere around 2003 to 2005, I didn't call it no estimates. That didn't come along until quite a bit later. What I was talking about was the things in our industry that it seems like we're not really allowed to talk about. It's these practices that we do without questioning. And if we question them, we're going to get pushback on that. We're not allowed to question them, at least not out loud. So, remember I showed you a picture of this person earlier? Who is that? Grace Hopper. So I mentioned that earlier. You should know that. But now this was one of her famous sayings. She was an admiral, U.S. Navy. She was an early figure in the development of computers. People love to say, we've always done it this way. And she fights that. That's what she fights. So I want to really emphasize that. This is an important thing. This is what we're talking about. So no estimates as a name, as a hashtag. This came from a conversation I was having in Twitter with Vasco Duarte and Neil Killick and Ron Jeffries. Pardon me. And I did not use this term to be controversial. I used it to identify a blog post that I had written for Ron Jeffries about a project I worked on where we didn't use estimates. And he wanted a further explanation of that. And so I wrote this blog post. And when I posted this, you can see my little thing. I said, no estimates. I've added a little more fuel to the fire. And so this was just the nature of how we developed this idea. The beauty of this is I got the controversy for free. I didn't intend to be controversial. But the reason I'm standing on this stage today and I'm in Israel is that people kind of warmed up to this idea, some of them fighting against it, and started asking more about it and wanting me to come speak about it. So here I am. So I think it's not such a bad thing, but we're talking about a very specific type of estimate. I want to make it really clear. We'll see if we can come up with a definition in a minute. But I want to go to the board now. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. What we've gathered up here, it's not real clear. So I'm just going to go through some of them so you know. Here in this first batch here, we say an estimate is a guess. It's a guess. It's a guess. Oh, here's a good one. It's a bull XXXX. What does that mean? Yes. It's an unknown. It's not exact. Well, that's okay. It's gambling. It's evaluate. I'm not sure where that really goes. It's a guess. It's a prediction. It's a confidence. I'm not sure where that goes. It's a guesstimate. Oh, here's one that says time. We'll move that. It's a guess. It's a guess. It's a ballpark. It's predictable. It's a guess. It's guessing. It's a forecast. It's an estimate. Who wrote that? I'm not sure about that one. An estimate is a guess. So this chunk here represents a guess. Over here we say it's effort, it's a size, it's a goal, it's complexity, it's a feeling. I'll put that over to guess. It's planning. That goes down under planning. It's trust. Interesting. Is that an estimate? Did your boss ever come to you and say, I need your trust? And when they say that, do they mean they need your estimate? What is a trust an estimate? So somebody said yes. What do the rest of you think? If you said trust, would someone say, oh yes, an estimate? Is that what an estimate is? I don't think that this is related to it. We may need to have trust to be able to do it. When? So here we're saying it's an amount. Oh, here's one that says it's a prediction. It says it's an effort. So an estimate is a guess about the time or the size or the effort to do something. Let's see what we got down here. Expectations. Is an estimate an expectation? Does your boss ever come to you and say, I need your expectations today? Can we use those words interchangeably? It's like after lunch, I guess. Folks, can we do that? Nobody would do that, right? Well, there's one that's effort. We'll move that back up there. Here's one. It's an educated guess. That's a guess, right? It's around. That says that's a guess. Oh, here's one. Budget, a puzzle. An estimate is a puzzle. I need your puzzles today. Did you finish your puzzles? I'm not sure about that. It's an opinion, feeling. I think that's got to go up there. Oh, guess, that's got to go up there. Size, that's got to go over there. Scrum Masters. Who did this? Guess. Guesstimate. That all goes up there. Time. That goes up over there. Evaluate. I'm not sure where that goes. Expectation. This is what I usually find about this mix. It's a guess about the amount of time it will take so we can use to make a plan or a budget so we can set expectations, commitments, and deadlines. Does that make sense? Can we agree that's what an estimate is? By this little exercise, we've come to an understanding that maybe we can use at least for the rest of this talk. I have 22 minutes left. Might as well quit now, I guess. I gave this same talk, now I've given this talk, I don't know, dozens and dozens of times, to a group of CTOs, executive types. This is the grouping they came up with. Notice, what do you notice first about it? Yeah, what's with that? They had trouble using just one word. They kept asking me, can I use more than one word? That grouping there, I think, represents the guesses to me. But instead of just saying a guess, they say an informed guess. A best guess. Has your boss ever come to you and said, I would like to have your worst guess on how long this will take? I don't think anybody would ever ask for that. A guess about how long something will take. A quantified guess with a confidence interval. It's a guess. Your confidence interval is a guess about your guess. I guess it'll take 2 weeks, give or take 3 days. We're guessing about the guess. What's another? An educated guess. You know, the best guess. I like that one, current best guess. Tomorrow I'm going to change it. What else is left there? Educated guess at how long? Okay, we had that. I think we go a ballpark value or a swag. Do you use that term swag here? Do you know what swag means? It's a scientific wild ass guess. Do you have wild asses in this part of the world? They're better at estimating than most humans, I have heard. Could be wrong. Okay, so we are now discussing, at least we know what we're discussing. Estimates are guesses about the time, cost, effort, complexity regarding a described piece of software. Have you ever had somebody come to you and say, we need a reporting system. How long is that going to take to write? I've actually had that happen to me. Dang, 2 minutes to 10 years, I don't know. That's kind of a big thing to try and guess. A described piece of software, which could be a story, a feature, a bug fix, or whatever, to be developed or worked on or created. Can we agree that that will be our definition of an estimate? We're getting close. So I want to use this as my working definition. An estimate is a guess about the amount of time, work time or elapsed time, to create a project, feature, some bit of work in software development. So I'll give you a little bit of example. Let's do an estimate. Real quickly, tell me, if you needed to write, here's the story. Right now, we know that 3 months from today, you're going to need to write your name on a piece of a white index card with a blue fountain pen. How long is that going to take you? On that day, you get out the card, you write down, how long is that going to take you? Anybody, try it. Loud. 1 minute, good enough, 1 minute. I think I could write my name in about 10 seconds or so. Okay, let's change it just this slightly. Right now, you need to write your name down on a index card, a white index card with a blue fountain pen. How long is it going to take you? 30 minutes. What else? So 30 minutes. Why would it take us 30 minutes? We have to go get a card and a pen. Does anybody here have a blue fountain pen? Not a single person with a blue fountain pen. How far away is the nearest, supply store? Okay, now I'm going to ask you something else. When I said blue fountain pen, do I mean a fountain pen that is blue in color or that has blue ink in it? What if you went and got a nice blue fountain pen with blue ink in it, and you came back with a black fountain pen but had blue ink, and you wrote down and said, no, you have to do it with a blue fountain pen. And what about the card? How big is it supposed to be? Can it have lines on it? You don't even know all the requirements yet. Matter of fact, when I do my full workshop on this, I'll ask people, what is it that you do when you are asked to give an estimate? What do you think the most common response is? I want some details. I want more information. That's what people almost always say. Not always. Okay. So now we're talking about two different kinds of things. The work time, the time we're actually going to work on the thing. Does that make sense? And the elapsed time. The elapsed time is how much time is going to go from when we start till we finish. If you're asked to do some work, you can assume you can have everything on hand to do it when you're getting ready to start it, and you can give a certain estimate for that. But if you don't have everything on hand, it could take a great deal longer. And if you don't have real good information, it could take you even longer. I hope you can see where we're headed with this. If you do, I don't need to even talk anymore. So do you see where we're going with this? Okay, I'll keep talking. So I'm going to skip over this point. I usually do this as an exercise, but due to time constraints. Why do we do estimates? Essentially, we do the estimates to get some information. The estimates themselves aren't a problem. The information maybe is, but the reason we need the information is the problem that I see. So in software development, we often use this to try to predict the future. So I don't think that the estimates themselves, they're a guess about how long something will take. They're not a prediction yet, till we get down here into the planning stage, where we have to determine, well, how long will it take to gather all this stuff together? Usually it's a bunch of different things we're estimating, and then we're going to bring them together, in aggregate, and determine how long will this project take. How many people do we need to hire? So how much will it cost? When will it be done? What can we get done during this sprint is one reason we estimate. How many people do we need to hire? What can we get for the money we have? Those are the kind of questions we want to answer. So why do we want a prediction? Why do we want these predictions, these guesses? So this is where we're kind of headed with this. They help, before I show this, I want to just mention this. We use estimates to help us make what? Decisions. We need to make decisions, and so we do the estimates. There's one other purpose I usually hear for this. We use it to spark a conversation we want to have. I hear that really frequently. We do the estimates so we get the people talking about the work, but we don't really use the estimates. I think that that's kind of a faulty way to think of things. We're going to use the side effect of something. So we're going to do this thing to get the side effect. What we should do is do the side effect thing. If it's a conversation we want, why don't we just do the conversation? Let's go on. So what are these decisions? That's the crux of this thing. Should we do this project or that project? There's some faults in all of these. Let's start with this. Should we even do this one project? If it's between this project and that project, and we make a decision based on the estimates, and remember we need to also be estimating the value so we can make some kind of more reasonable, and estimates for value isn't what I'm talking about here, but they're fraught with more problems than estimates for how long it will take. Usually, what do they do with the estimates of value? How much is this going to be worth to us? What do they usually do with that? Do they pump it up or do they diminish it? Do they say, well, we think this could be worth $5 million if we can do it? Or they say, oh, it might be worth $500,000. What do they usually do? They're going to increase it to get a better chance of doing the project. What do they do with the costs? We want the cost to be lower. You can't negotiate an estimate, by the way. That's another discussion. What happens if we choose to do project A because we think it's a better decision based on the estimates of cost? What are we going to learn about doing that project? I'm going to try and drag you through this. What are we going to learn about if we decide to do project A? We're going to learn about project A, and we'll learn nothing about project B. What if later on we go, geez, this isn't working out? Now what is our decision? Do we keep going? Or do we stop and say, let's try project B instead? These are the things I'm just asking us to think about. In reality, we don't know anything about project B. We don't know if it would have been a better decision. But now we're sorry that we decided on project A, but we have to deal with this thing called the sunk cost fallacy. We've already spent a lot of money on project A. We better finish it. Oh, I hope that's not the reality you're living in. Should we even do this feature? Which feature should we do first? These are the decisions we want to make based on these estimates. And this is what I'm questioning. Are we trying to make the right kind of decisions? It's not about the estimates. It's about the kind of decisions we're trying to make. So, we have a mechanism in place for making decisions. We believe that we must know something about the time or cost. And this is what I often hear when I ask people, why do you need the estimates? And they say, to help us make a decision. Now, I've got one of these things. It has a 10 on it. So you can't flip it and see the heads or the tails. You know what this is, right? It's a decision-making tool. If the 10 is on the top, we do the project. If not, we don't do it. We don't do this project. That helped me make a decision. We don't need help making a decision. What do we need help with? Making a good decision. Does that make sense? We don't need help. It's really easy to make a decision, but we need help making a good decision. It gets worse. This is all based on guesses. We made this decision. We agreed earlier, I hope, that it's a guess about the time it's going to take. But it gets worse. It's based on guesses, but I like to share this famous quote. I'm going to read it so it's clearer. It ain't so much the things we don't know that get us into trouble, but the things we do know that just ain't so. Now, hopefully you can understand that. That's been attributed to Mark Twain, Artemus Ward, and Will Rogers. We're not sure which one, but we think it really belongs to Josh Billings. What I learned from this exercise in studying this is if you're going to be a humorist in the United States in the 1800s, you better have a big mustache. By 1930, you didn't need the big mustache anymore. So there, now you've learned something important. I like this saying so much. I really love this saying. I honestly believe it's better to know nothing than to know what ain't so. We trick ourselves. It was Feynman who said, we have to be really careful not to fool ourselves because we're the easiest person to fool. We will always fool ourselves. Okay, so remember we talked about this earlier. Whoops. People love to say, this is the way we do it. It's always been done this way. And she's saying we got to think about that. That's sort of this whole story. We still have 10 minutes left. I want to see if yes, let's ask this. We'll do this as a team exercise. Have you ever had to make an estimate? Show of hands. Almost everybody. Please keep your hands up then. Have you ever gone over 10% of the time of your estimate to complete the thing? 20% of the time. 30% of the time. 40%. A question. Did you put your hand up to have a question? Because I can't tell. If you've ever had to make an estimate, have you ever gone over the time of that estimate in doing the work by 10%? 20%, keep your hand up. 30%, 40%, 50%, 60% of time. What about double the time? What about 3 times the time? What about it turned out you couldn't do the thing at all? I was on a project not that long ago, within the last year or so, where I was sitting with a group of pretty competent programmers, and the product owner came in at the last minute. They were getting ready to release something. I was trying to help them learn that you can release stuff on a weekly basis or maybe more frequently. And so we were ready to release, and the product owner came in and they said this, I have one more thing that I'd like to get in there. Now they're not praying, okay? I have one more thing I'd like to get in. Why are they doing this with their hands? What does that mean? It's one little thing. I got one more thing I'd like to get in. Oh, well, tell us what it is, somebody said. I wanted to say, no, we'll start on that next week, whatever it is. We're going to deliver this week. So they described what it was, and one of the team members said, yeah, I can do that in about 2 hours. Is this like a TV show where I could do that in a half hour. Oh, I could do that in 15 minutes. You know, we're not competing to see who can do it quickest, but somebody raised their hand and said, yeah, I could do that in about 2 hours. Well, I bit my tongue. I didn't want to say anything. But I wanted to say, don't say that. We're trying to get something deployed. Let's get this deployed. How long did you think it took to get that 2-hour thing done? 2 weeks to discover that we couldn't do it. We put off the deployment for 2 weeks. I won't tell you the details of it, but essentially they were using a framework that didn't have the feature this person thought the framework should have. So they would have had to roll their own or switch to a different framework. Both very costly things. So, okay. Now we're on to the second part. This is going a lot slower than I would have hoped. So I'm going to do this part, and then that's all you're going to get today. How it started for me. I took on a job, this was in 1999, at a place that they were doing something that looked like what Agile was going to become. I was already doing Agile stuff under the name of Extreme Programming, and it was basically about 200 developers. What attracted me to them was they were going to do 6-week iterations, and they were going to reflect at the end of each iteration as how things went and what they can do better. So we're going to spend 2 weeks to do design, estimating, planning, and designing, 2 weeks to write the code, and 2 weeks to do the testing. That seemed strangely arbitrary to me. Didn't make sense, but still, it was better than nothing. So we charged off on our first iteration. We came back in and we did our lessons learned. We noticed 3 things, I put them under 2, 3 things that were interesting to me. One of them was that our estimates were off, and so they said, what can we do about that? Well, what could they do about it? Get better at doing your estimates. And the other thing was, the requirements weren't clear. We didn't completely understand them, and they kept changing. So what can we do about that? What do we usually do about it? Well, let's understand the requirements better. That was an interesting attack. And let's control the changes. Put in a control change program. So we actually got some training on doing better estimates. And we worked hard to get better at the estimating, and we worked hard to get better at understanding the requirements. Now, when somebody asks you, do you understand? And you answer yes, does it mean you actually understood? All it means is you think you understood, or you don't want to say no because you'll look stupid. So we charged off to do our work. And we did our second iterations, they called lessons learned. What do you think we discovered? There were 2 things I noticed. What were they? The same 2 things. So I don't need to bring them out line by line anymore because we only have 58 seconds left. So How do we fix this? We got some more training. We worked hard to get better at it. At the end of the third iteration, we charged off to do the work. We had our retrospective, and guess what we found? Now, you're laughing about it because you've probably experienced similar things. I was not stupid. I didn't get up and say, hey, this is all wrong until this third iteration. And then I said, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. We can't keep trying to get better at something and keep having the same problem. Maybe we're trying to get better at the wrong thing. Now remember, this was many years ago. I see this as a cycle. We charge off to do the work. We find out that it didn't go as well as we wanted to. We try to get better at it, and we do it again. And I came to call this the cycle of continuous no improvements. Don't fall a trap to that. So I'm going to leave you with that today. I hope that was enough. Don't try and solve the symptoms. Try and find what the problem was. Thank you very much.
Amazing.